I've said before that a lot of the motivators that get somebody to start taking up a spiritual practice or get into non-dual teachings is kind of a misguided one that they're going to find is not actually reflective of what the outcome is. I think Shinzen Young said something about how enlightenment, there's no informed consent of it because people either expect that it's going to be way less wonderful than it actually is, or it's going to be way more wonderful than it actually is. Yeah, the promise of serene, non-stop bliss once you get to a certain point in spiritual practice and awakening. That is very strong, tempting reason. That's a great motivator for somebody to get started. And I hesitate to say it doesn't end up being the case because I only have my own singular experience. And of course you hear cases of that happening. But it's one way that your experience may go, but it's by no means guaranteed whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, that was a lot of the reason why I got started, was reading about someone's fantastical experience of suddenly everything that they were worried and anxious about and any pains that they felt, all of that stuff just seeming irrelevant and them just being in this state of bliss for long extended periods of time. Now let's look at the truth to it. You do start to realize that what you are is uninhibited and unchanged by any external factors. So you remain consistently untouched in your true state. But there's still this relative experience of being human that you got to figure out how to operate. And at the low level, there can still be pain. I mean, the bare basic, like, that pain doesn't ever stop from the human. It's not like the human, like, loses all sensation. And obviously nobody expects that, but there is an expectation of that in emotions, and I think that is equally as misguided of an expectation. And I say that because I had that expectation. There is still sensation happening for the human being. But there's still just awareness of all that sensation. Positive or negative. There's still just awareness of it. And awareness is welcoming of all of that. But that doesn't mean that sensation goes away. So negative emotions like anger and sadness and even extreme sadness, what we call depression, that is all still totally within the realm of human experience. And so it will still be, or rather it can still be. No matter if you're as awakened as the Buddha, pain can persist. And you'll be surprised by that at first, but given enough of it, you won't be surprised by it anymore. But the awareness watching it remains neutral and untouched. Ironically, holding on to this ideal of what the experience of enlightenment is supposed to be, one of them, those expectations being excessive bliss, perfect happiness throughout every second of every day, that actually keeps you from a state of happiness. A state of true happiness, which is equanimity. Being okay with whatever arises. the more that I'm clinging on to, no, I gotta be perfectly present and accepting of, of everything, ironically makes me less accepting of everything. I've heard it said beautifully. Expectations are premeditated disappointment. The expectation of bliss is only leading you toward sadness and dissatisfaction. But it's completely understandable why people want that bliss. We want positive sensation, we don't want negative sensation. Even Joe, even the Buddha, I think, has some relative functioning preference for more positive things than negative things. That wasn't me trying to say that I am the Buddha. I'm just saying I don't need to qualify what I say. But it's like, it's just very counterintuitive and not language that makes sense to most people with the sort of values that we've been fed. It doesn't make sense to most people to be able to say, hey, even if I experience nothing but abject misery for the rest of my days, I will be okay. Like, how does that make any sense? You just gotta live it to find the sense in it. I can be okay with whatever arises. Also, clinging on to that ideal of the perpetual bliss of enlightenment often sells short the happiness that you're already experiencing. The little joys of everyday living, enlightened or not. If I've got a bunch of spiritual concepts on my mind while I'm eating a delicious piece of pie, I'm probably not appreciating that pie very much, am I? I chose a ridiculous example intentionally, but you know, the experiences that we have with other people. I really do think that any experience I share with somebody else is a sacred one. And sometimes I can be so attempting to be in line with my spiritual practice among other people that I can fail to just sort of take people as they are. But I'm getting better at it all the time. I liked what my teacher said. He said that he had a student who had some awakening experience and then had 10 years of bliss. Like, actually had that thing that we fantasize about, but then the bliss stopped. And negative feelings started infiltrating again. And he went to my teacher and said, I had 10 years of bliss and now it's ending. How do I get it back? And my teacher said, you should be grateful to have experienced 10 years of bliss. Do you know how few people will ever experience that in their lifetime? There really is how you feel. And then at a deeper, almost more important level, there's how you feel about how you feel. I have this emotion. Oh, but that emotion is welcome. That's cool. And then that ironically often transmutes to a more positive emotion on the surface level. There is greater well-being to be found through awakening. And it just is not at all what most people are probably expecting, and not what I was expecting. It's like it's almost false advertising of enlightenment, except that the product that's actually delivered happens to still be a pretty spectacular one. And even if you advertised it perfectly properly, gave the absolute best description of it that you can, people are still going to have whatever expectations that they will. Yeah, I don't know. Just be happy.